Hello class, I've created this iMovie to teach you about the rise and fall of Napoleon Bonaparte. Hopefully the mix of narration and pictures will make your note-taking experience more enjoyable and interesting. Please take notes on the presentation so you are prepared for tomorrow's class discussion. See you tomorrow. Bye. The life of Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was born on the Mediterranean island of Corsica in Ajacia. He was born on August 15, 1969, to Carlo and Letizia Bonaparte. His father was a lawyer, and although the family was not wealthy, they belonged to the minor Corsican nobility. Napoleon as a child attended school on the mainland of France. While there, he learned the French language and later moved on to a French military academy, which he graduated from in 1785. The Italian-born Napoleon would become a second lieutenant of an artillery regiment for the French army. The French Revolution began in 1789, and over the span of 3 years, the French monarchy was toppled, and France was proclaimed a republic. During the start of the war, Napoleon spent a lot of time back at home in Corsica, where he developed ties to the Jacobin political group. The Jacobin Party was led by Maximilien de Robespierre, and it was a radical democracy group. When Napoleon returned to France, his ties with Augustin and Maximilien grew stronger. At a young age, Napoleon was promoted to brigadier general in the French army. This wouldn't stop him from being placed under house arrest due to his affiliation with the revolutionary Robespierre brothers when they were beheaded for their crimes in 1794. By 1795, Napoleon was promoted again to Major General due to his efforts that led to a suppression of a royalist insurrection against the government in Paris. Napoleon's expertise on the battlefield led to him being perceived as a national hero of France. In 1796, he would command a French army that would take down a much larger Austrian army. A year later, France and Austria would sign the Treaty of Campo Formio. Due to Napoleon's victory, the terms of the treaty gave the French more territory. This was the first of many lands he would conquer, adding to the expansion of France. During this time, France was governed by a 5-person group called the Directory. The Directory would soon approach Napoleon and ask him if he would lead an invasion on England. Napoleon knew the French naval forces would fall to his superior British fleet. He instead offered to invade Egypt to destroy the British trade routes with India. The key to this endeavor took place in 1798 at the Battle of the Pyramids. Here Napoleon defeated the military slave Mamluks despite the fact that the British fleet earlier disseminated their forces at the Battle of the Nile. As Napoleon made himself indispensable to the Directory, he also had his eye on politics. In 1799, Napoleon helped overthrow the Directory in France during the coup of 18 Brumaire. The first thing Napoleon did was he established a consulate containing 3 consuls. Napoleon himself was to be one of these consuls. He was able to legitimize himself as one of the consuls after his troops dispersed the Austrians from Italy, and soon after the French also came to peace with the British after signing the Treaty of Amiens in 1802. Napoleon quickly worked to restabilize France after the Revolution. First, he needed to end the strife between classes, so he allowed the aristocrats to return. His exception, though, was that they no longer held any legal bearing in France. Next, he wanted the church back because he believed it had a stabilizing effect on the people. The churches, however, were no longer tax exempt and they were put under state supervision. He also successfully centralized the French government. He even created a Napoleonic Code, creating the foundation for the French legal system. In the year of 1802, Napoleon decreed himself first consul for life, and a couple of years later he crowned himself Emperor of France. Despite being an emperor, he would tell people he was a constitutional monarch. He appeared to not even trust his own system, but under his reign, the state became powerful, efficient, and ruthless. Napoleon had two wives during his reign. His first wife, Josephine, was never able to successfully conceive a child. Due to this, Napoleon had their marriage annulled in order to find a wife capable of producing an heir. In 1810, he married the daughter of the Emperor of Austria, Marie-Louise. Not only did he find a fertile woman, but the marriage would turn a long-time French enemy into a possible ally. His wife would give birth to Napoleon II in 1811, and he was titled the King of Rome. Between 1803 and 1815, the French were involved in a string of conflicts with several European nations. This was known as the Napoleonic Wars. In an attempt to raise money for future wars, Napoleon sold the Louisiana Territory in North America to the United States for $15 million. This is famously known as the Louisiana Purchase. One of Napoleon's greatest achievements was his victory at the Battle of Austerlitz. There he defeated the Austrians and Russians, putting an end to the Holy Roman Empire and a start to the creation of the Confederation of the Rhine. In 1806, Napoleon decided to engage in economic warfare with Britain. He did this by establishing a continental system of European port blockades against British trade. Next, his troops would defeat the Russians at Friedland, forcing Alexander I to sign the Treaty of Tilsit. Later, he would also defeat the Austrians at the Battle of Wagram. Due to all his success at this point, Napoleon begins to dish out nobility titles amongst his friends and family. This was possible due to the expansion of his empire across Western and Central Europe. Around 1810, Russia stopped the embargo against British trade. This angered Napoleon, causing him to send a ton of troops into Russia in 1812. Russia used their geographical location and elements to their advantage. They continuously retreated against Napoleon's attacks, forcing an extended campaign the French weren't equipped for. Napoleon and his troops eventually made their way into Moscow, only to find out that the Russians had retreated and prevented them from gaining supplies. Napoleon finally retreated and lost many men on the way back due to the rough Russian winter. This catastrophic invasion led to the loss of 500,000 troops. At the same time as the failed invasion, French forces were also engaged in the Peninsula War. The outcome resulted in the Spanish and Portuguese forcing the French out of the Iberian Peninsula with the help of the British. Napoleon would fall again during the Battle of Nations, which was a coalition that included Austria, Prussia, Russia, and Sweden. Paris was captured in 1814. The people turned on Napoleon, forcing him to step down from the throne. Soon he was exiled to Melba off the coast of Italy, mandated in the Treaty of Fontainebleau. However, that was not the end for Napoleon. He would escape Elba and gather supporters. He returned to Paris as King Louis XVIII fled. This sparked the start of Napoleon's 100 Days campaign. Napoleon believed he could strike out at the individual countries that had formed a coalition against him. After a couple of successful invasions, his troops were defeated at the Battle of Waterloo. Once again, Napoleon had to give up his reign of France. He was exiled once more to St. Helena, where he perished of stomach cancer on May 5, 1821. Now for a little recap. After this lesson, you should now realize that Napoleon was a ruthless conqueror who focused too much on expanding the French Empire. This led to his downfall as he spent a ton of money on war as the citizens grew restless back in France.